Hello everyone, and welcome back to Gamesdos. Today, we're taking a trip back in time to do a deep dive into the dusty shelves of Sega's legendary baseball series, World Series Baseball. This series rocked our consoles from the mid-90s to the early 2000s. For some of us, it was our very first baseball experience. For others, it was the pinnacle of realistic simulation. If you're ready, let's witness the evolution of this unforgettable series together, from the very first game to the last. The year is 1994, and Sega Genesis owners are introduced to the most innovative baseball game they've seen to date. World Series Baseball created a revolution, setting itself apart from the competition. So, what made this game so special? Without a doubt, its biggest innovation was the famous catcher's eye view camera angle. This perspective gave players a much more realistic feeling of hitting the ball. The baseball field, which we were used to seeing from a top-down view, suddenly transformed into an arena we felt like we were actually in. Developed by Blue Sky Software, the game stood out not only for its camera angle, but also for its licenses. It was the first baseball game to have licenses from both Major League Baseball, the MLB, and the Major League Baseball Players Association, the MLBPA. This meant we could play with real teams and real player names, which was a huge deal back then. The announcements, voiced by San Diego Padres announcer Jerry Coleman, completed the atmosphere. In short, World Series Baseball etched its name in history in golden letters as the best baseball game of the 16-bit era. By 1995, Sega improved upon an already great formula. World Series Baseball 95 is still considered by many fans to be the best 16-bit baseball game ever. The graphical improvements, more detailed stadiums, and fluid animations were immediately noticeable. But the innovations weren't just visual. New modes and features added to the game took its playability to the next level. There was now an all-star game, determined by performances during the season. Additionally, features like player drafting and trading allowed you to build your own dream team. You could even play with teams composed of legendary players. The move to a larger 24 megabit cartridge allowed for more save options and richer content. In short, the 95 version took the success of the first game a step further, solidifying the series' place at the top. In the same year, World Series Baseball, starring Deion Sanders, released for Sega's 32X add-on, was a bit of an interesting entry. At its core, it was a slightly enhanced version of the 95 Genesis game. Naming it after the legendary athlete primetime Deion Sanders was purely a marketing move, and he wasn't given any special emphasis in the game itself. Thanks to the power of the 32X, the color palette was wider, and the stadiums and logos looked more vibrant. Also, the camera would smoothly zoom in when the ball went into the outfield. However, overall, it didn't offer a huge difference from the Genesis version. Critics noticed this, stating that while the game was great, it didn't bring any revolutionary changes compared to its 16-bit counterpart. Still, for 32X owners, it was the best baseball experience available. And now we come to the pivotal moment when the series stepped into the next generation. Released in 1995 for the Sega Saturn, World Series Baseball utilized the power of the 32-bit console to its fullest. 3D stadiums designed with polygons and more realistic player models were a visual feast for gamers of the era. This title, which was developed based on a game released in Japan called Pro Baseball Greatest 9, stood out not just for its graphics, but also for its gameplay. Fluid animations, physical details like wind affecting the ball, and realistic error probabilities took the simulation to a higher level. It was so well regarded that in 1996, Next Generation magazine ranked it 48th on their top 100 games of all time list, describing it as the best-looking and best-playing baseball video game of all time. While the Saturn storm was brewing, Sega didn't forget its Genesis users. World Series Baseball '96 was a sort of farewell kiss to the 16-bit platform. It was fundamentally the '95 version with updated rosters and the 1996 season schedule. While it didn't introduce major innovations, it was the perfect choice for those still looking for a quality baseball experience in the final days of the Genesis. Even Next Generation magazine praised the game, saying the Genesis will probably never have a baseball game of this quality again. The first game on the Saturn was already great, so how could Sega make it even better? The answer came in 1996 with World Series Baseball 2. Considered by critics and players as one of the series' peak moments, this game built much more upon the solid foundation of the first title. Now, all 28 Major League stadiums were included in the game. New features like rain delays and injuries that could sideline players for the season increased the realism. You could even create the expansion teams that would join the league in 1998, the Arizona Diamondbacks and Tampa Bay Devil Rays. With gameplay improvements, more realistic outfielder arms, and smarter AI, the game offered both an arcade-like fun and a deep simulation. By 1997, the series took a significant technological leap on the Saturn. World Series Baseball '98 was the first game in the series to feature fully polygonal player models instead of the 2D sprites of previous games. This meant a much more fluid and three-dimensional visual experience. The game ran in the Saturn's high-resolution mode, featuring incredibly clean and detailed graphics for its time. Many players and critics considered this game the best baseball game on the Saturn. There was also a Genesis version of the game. However, as the console was at the end of its life, this version offered no major innovations besides updated rosters and was largely ignored by the press. The real star, without a doubt, was the Saturn version. With the arrival of Sega's new wonder, the Dreamcast, the World Series Baseball series was expected to make a fresh start under the 2K name. However, World Series Baseball 2K1, released in 2000, was a huge disappointment for fans of the series. This time, WoW Entertainment was in the developer's seat, and the result was not very promising. While the graphics weren't bad by Dreamcast standards, there were serious shortcomings in the gameplay. The absence of a basic feature like being able to manually control the outfielders drew major criticism. The batting mechanics were also confusing. Moving away from the depth and realism of previous games in the series, 2K1 adopted a more arcade-style structure and unfortunately became known as one of the weakest entries in the series. Despite the turbulent period for the console versions, Sega also developed a World Series Baseball game for the arcades. Released in 2001 for Sega's NAOMI arcade platform, this game had hardware similar to the Dreamcast. This version was designed to offer fast-paced and competitive gameplay. Players could adjust the power of their hits and pitches using a joystick and a special flick-action bat pitching lever. This rare title, focused entirely on the arcade experience, showed a different side of the series. After the fiasco of 2001, Sega handed the reins to the legendary sports game developer Visual Concepts to save the series. Released in 2001 for the Dreamcast and the original Xbox, World Series Baseball 2002 signaled the series' rise from the ashes. Visual Concepts redesigned the game from the ground up, correcting the mistakes of 2K1. The batting and pitching mechanics were made much more in-depth, fielding control was improved, and, most importantly, it offered online play. Although the game still had some rough edges, it was widely considered the best baseball game on the Dreamcast. The version released exclusively for the Xbox took the series to a new level by utilizing the console's power, and was praised as one of the best sports games on the Xbox at the time. And so, we arrive at the last game to bear the World Series baseball name. Released in 2003 for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, World Series Baseball 2K3 was the highest point the series ever reached. Visual concepts built upon 2002 to create one of the most comprehensive and realistic baseball simulations to date. The most praised aspect of the game was its incredibly detailed franchise mode. As the owner and general manager of a team, you could control every detail, from managing the budget and hiring a coaching staff to dealing with player contracts and even scouting rookie players. This level of depth was unmatched by any other baseball game at the time. The gameplay mechanics were also perfected, earning top marks from critics. World Series Baseball 2K3 was a glorious farewell to the series, passing its legacy on to the subsequent MLB 2K series. World Series Baseball was an unforgettable journey. From the revolutionary spirit of the 16-bit era to the visual feasts of the 32-bit generation, through the turbulent waters of the Dreamcast and into the simulation depth of the 6th-generation consoles. Each game reflected the technology and the understanding of baseball of its time. Sometimes it reached the very top, other times it disappointed, but it was never forgotten. So, what was your favorite World Series baseball game? Which team did you win championships with? Which player did you hit unforgettable home runs with? Don't forget to share your memories with us in the comments. Until our next retrospective video, take care and see you soon.